In this lesson, we're going to be creating a nav mesh that is going to be used for our AI to know where it can move around, as well as so it can find a pathway to its destination point without us having to do too much work. It's going to be pretty awesome, so let's go ahead and get started on that. But first, I'm going to change one thing in our show object and editor script. Currently it's using the onDrawGizmos selected function, so it's only showing that gizmo when the object is selected, and we want it to be always drawn. So I'm going to replace that function with onDrawGizmos. That's all we got to change. This is the function name there, and now it should be drawn all the time. So save that, go back over here, let it compile. And then once that's done, I can click off, and you should still be able to see the cube. So click off of that, not selected, and it's still there. Cool, we got that taken care of. Now, I'm going to select the ground, because this is what we want to use for our nav mesh. So select that, and then go up to Window, and we're going to open up the navigation window, because this is what's going to have all the stuff for baking our nav mesh. And baking is just going to be creating it. And now I have the ground selected. I want to mark it as navigation static, and that's going to say that this is not going to be something that's going to be moving around. It's going to be changing a lot, so we can just have it be navigation static, so the player can pretty easily move around it. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and say bake. Cool. So now you can see that the nav mesh is being visualized. It's all this blue area here. You can see that down here it says show nav mesh, so it's that checked, and we are seeing it. If I go over to the edge here, you can see, so basically this entire plane, except for this area that doesn't have the blue over it, is walkable. It's an area that anything with a nav mesh agent, which we're going to get into that in a second, can move around on. Now we can change this spacing here. If I go over to bake, I can change the agent radius. So let's make this like 4, and then bake it again, and see, yeah, now there's a lot more margin which it can't go up next to. But let's go ahead and change that back down to 0.5 is okay. We can make that 0.5 again. And bake that. And there's a lot of things here you can mess with. For now, we're going to keep it pretty simple. So let's go ahead and get into NavMesh agent. Now this is like the components that your object needs to have in order to actually be able to utilize the NavMesh. So I'm going to go back over to the inspector window right here. I have my enemy selected, and I'm going to add a component to it. So add component, and I'm going to add a nav mesh agent. So select that, and cool, so now it has that. Now what we need to do is actually utilize this nav mesh agent via script. So let's go ahead, create a new script. So right click here in the scripts, create C# script. And I'm going to call this, let's see, enemy behavior. And I'm going to open it up. And we're going to start working on this very complex but very interesting script here. And we're going to start off by going ahead and making a private nav mesh agent variable. We're going to call this nav agent, and in the start function we're going to get component. We're going to get the component. It's going to be, we're going to put the script on the same thing where our nav mesh agent is. So get component, we're going to get the nav mesh agent, and we're going to assign that to our nav agent. We're also going to create an array, so public, it's going to be an array of game objects, so game object, and then the brackets saying it's an array, and this is going to be the waypoints. And what we're going to do just for now is we're going to say nav agent dot set destination. This is going to be setting like where is it trying to go to. We're going to set it to the first waypoint. So waypoints at 0, so the first element in the waypoints array, dot, and then remember this is a game object array, so we need to get the dot transform dot position. So we're accessing the transform component and then accessing the position, and that will get us a actual vector 3, which is what this is looking for the position. So we got all of that in there. Let's go ahead and save it. And let's go back over into Unity. I'm going to assign our enemy behavior script to our enemy as soon as it finishes compiling. Okay. Drop that on there. And for waypoints, we're just going to go ahead and add in our one waypoint. And now, if I press play, we should see our enemy here go towards that. Now we do have a few problems in that it is jumping down, so we need to fix that. Let's go ahead and do that then. So in order to do that, what we're going to have to do is modify what it's using for the size and shape of the what it's thinking is this is the enemy, this is the object that the nav mesh is using. Right now, if we move in here, we can sort of see it's this cylinder right in the middle there, and that is just not the right size for what we need it to be for. So I'm going to just fix that. Let's go ahead and increase the radius. So this one here, and let's move down the base so it's actually starting at the bottom of this. You might need to move around to get this a little bit, make this a little clearer what's happening. I think that's close. This is a time where you can use these things over here and even press the little box to make it into orthographic, and then try to zoom in a little bit. And let's move down the base offset a little bit more, just like that's fine. And then let's increase the height, so it's actually covering the height there. And I'm going to press the box again so we go back into perspective view. I think that'll be okay. Let's go ahead and test it again. And it looks like it's working. Cool. So that's it for this lesson. I will see you in the next one.